chat questions, and we do have a dedicated section at the end. We will be hearing from some office managers, accounting technicians as well, who will kind of pop in and help in these conversations and share some best practices. So you'll be hearing from a mixture of folks today. With that, let's get started. Okay, this is the agenda of what we're going to cover through today. We'll have the opportunity to do a few case scenario walkthrough, and then you'll hear about what support resources we have, and then we will get into any questions that you have and review both with office manager peers and staff that are here on site. With that, Dan Emerson.
Thanks, Jessica. So just very quickly here, this is my only slide, is why the change, and I think we talked about this last time we were in an office manager meeting, but the largest reason for this was, generally speaking, payroll accuracy. You know, we had over 1,600 calendars that at one point in time were off as the school year began. We had 160 plus schedules that were off. Accruals and time balance leaves were, some people were showing 0, those were off. And of course, most importantly, we had staff that were being underpaid and in some cases overpaid, and payroll accuracy is just one of the main priorities of this district. And we heard you, and it's a priority for us too. And so that's the main reason why we're moving back to paper, is to ensure the accuracy of payroll, and also to just let you guys know that your voices were heard. And we really thank you for that. It was instrumental in making this change occur. And we are very hopeful that we are setting the district up for a successful payroll and benefits process here. It should be a temporary process for the next 9 months, potentially longer, because we want to make sure, and we want to make the commitment to you, that with whatever digital solution we go back to, that it will be successful, and that it will meet the district's needs, both on the operational side and on the office managers and employee side as well. And so we have a team dedicated to that of about 10 people, and then a secondary team of testers for this digital project that will go on for probably at least 9 months to help us find the right solution. So we want to thank you for accepting this change, and for many of you helping lead this change. And with that, I'll pass it back off to Jessica, and we'll start going through some of the details. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. One of our office managers who volunteered to share some information, I'm not sure if they come on right now, if they'll be heard, but let's try to give this space. Lindsay Corley, if you're on, I know you have to hop off for a training, so if you're on and you want to walk through, let's see if we can get that through. Okay, while we're navigating that, I'm gonna look for someone to give me a hand signal if she kind of pops in, and that will give us a chance to kind of test this audio, and thanks for your patience since we're working through the environment. So what exactly is changing? This slide is very specific to identify paper, timesheet, and leave sheet processes will change for all staff except for those who clock in and out in our transportation and nutrition services department. What this means for that staff is they will not see time and leave accruals or balances in UKG. They will no longer go through UKG to request time off. They will transition to using paper time and leave sheets, and they are 2 separate forms. And the UKG time and leave system and their experience will shift over in the coming days. Essentially, it won't be maintained for them. So what they've been able to see before, their timesheet, their leave banks, that dashboard view will get removed. So if you have staff that maybe haven't checked any of these emails, they're not quite sure what's going on, they won't be able to go through UKG to do those functions. And I want to call out that these changes are specific to the time and leave. We still have HR and payroll functions that continue in the system. And this includes employee direct deposits, needing to update account information, updating their address. If you're creating personal action, a PA change for your staff, you'll still do that through UKG. And employees will still use UKG to request their medical leaves and long-term leaves of absences. So I just want to express here, there are operational functions that continue in the system, but essentially time and leave accounts will be removed for this staff. And we have one of our payroll specialists that will walk through some of these workflows. I'm going to cover the employees that do clock in and out. And so these are in our nutritional services and transportation department. This walks through what their experience is, and it's very similar to what it's been. They will still use UKG. They will not see any scheduled hours. They'll only see their reported clock punches. They would still use UKG to request time off, and they will submit their timesheet through UKG. As an office manager or administrator, you'll use UKG to approve those hours, and those hours would get submitted through payroll and UKG for processing to ultimately pay the employee. This workflow and these charts, these slide decks will be available on our staff portal, and we'll share these out. So this is just an articulation of what the employee experience is for those who clock in and out. Hey, Lindsay, they're letting me know in the room that you just joined. We are trying to kind of test if someone who's not in the room can present, and will you go ahead and try to take over and say something? We'll see if we can hear you in the room. Okay. We're not able to hear you in the room. I think people who are also virtual may be able to hear you. No, they can't. Okay. We will follow up on what we had planned for some of our office manager presentations. But thank you for trying, Lindsay. Okay, for all employees except those who clock in and out, we have one of our payroll specialists going to present.
Hi, everyone. Let's quickly review this workflow. This applies to all employees except those who clock in and out. It is a simple process, but it's vital to keep things running smoothly and efficiently. Employees will work their scheduled hours. Any additional hours should be recorded on a paper timesheet. Once that's completed, office managers and admin will review and approve time and leave sheets. From there, payroll will be processed and employees will be paid. Incomplete information such as missing employee ID can delay processing, and we definitely want to avoid that for everyone. So if you have any questions or need help, please don't hesitate to reach out to payroll. We're here to support you.
Thank you. Now we're going to move into, hi. Oh, that's perfect. We have Lindsay joining us on site. Let me give some buffer while I give her a minute to set up and collect. So the next part of this is we're going to get into kind of the asks around organization and responsibilities with dealing with paper time and leave sheets. And so we'll go through some workflows, and I'm going to turn over the floor to Lindsay to talk through some of the things that she's created and how she's thinking about this, and then we'll come back to the workflows.
So you guys won't be able to see my computer, which was what I was hoping for. But the thing that worked for me when we did paper before was making a mail merge and having printed timesheets at my desk through a mail merge that I did with my employee staff list, and basically took the leave record, made it into a document that I could plop in staff's name, employee ID number, hours, their contract type, and then I would adjust the dates based on the monthly leave and print those, have them in a binder, and then every day through Red Rover, just add those myself into employees' leave brackets. So I shared in the spreadsheet a copy of the mail merge for an Excel to capture all your staff list, and then as well as a Word document that is ready to save, make a copy of, and use for yourself. Maybe instead of doing a demo, if you have questions, if you've never done a mail merge before, just call me and I can walk you through it. The Word document is already set up with little brackets of where you would insert your merge fields, and then you would just edit it with the dates that you needed for whatever leave period that you're running it for, and print it and go from there. Yeah, so call me if you need me.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We will move into covering some of the workflow, and then at the end of the conversation, we'll come back to some of those best practices that have been shared in the resources, the spreadsheet that Lindsay mentioned. I have that linked in the slide deck as well. And so that will be at the end of the presentation. To walk us through paper timesheet, both the form and the experience, we have Kate.
Okay, sorry, let me get to the page real quick, just in case it goes off of us. Okay, so what you see on your screen right now is what the timesheet currently looks like. If you were here prior, you'll notice there's a few extra fields. This is literally all the information that we need to be able to quickly and easily go through these timesheets, code the pay, and get everyone paid accurately. So you'll see it has the monthly pay period at the top, the from and the to, the employee's legal name. If they go by something else, we don't want to know what their nickname is. We need to know who the employee is so we can find them in Business Plus. School or department, the employee's ID number. Something new that we've added is their schedule. We need to know if they're working a varied schedule. It could depend on whether or not they're getting overtime for those hours that are on their timesheet. Contracted hours per day, and then whether the employee is classified, certified, or confidential, and whether they want these hours to be for payment or for comp time. The rest of it is the same. You're just gonna put in the date that the employee performed the work that they performed. If they are doing something that would have been under a drop down before, you can just put that verbiage in the work performed. Whether or not that is in their regular position, the number of hours, and the account code. Then it needs to be signed by both the employee and the administrator. So what's on your screen now is an example of a timesheet that was filled out correctly. You'll notice that every single field is filled out. Notice that for the events, they have what the employee did, ticket taker, where they were working, Bend High, and what event they were doing, boys basketball. All events will default to 1 hour per event. You don't get 3 hours of pay or however long it takes. It's just a one flat stipend for that event, so it's 1 hour. And then you'll total it up at the end, make sure it's signed off by both the employee and the admin, and it is good to go. The next copy would be one that's filled out incorrectly. If it's incorrect, if we cannot pay it based on what is on it, like we don't know who the employee is, we don't know who Ray S. is at Lapine Middle, Elementary, High School, we have no idea. That we're gonna send back and get more information, which could delay payment. If we know who the employee is and it's just missing, the GL, or it's gonna be the same as before, we'll default to your discretionary to get it paid. We're not gonna hold employees' pay if we have the bulk of the information that we need. So ideally, if you want everything to be coded correctly and the employee to be paid correctly, we need all the fields filled out correctly. So you'll see this one, it's missing the employee's last name. You know, Lapine doesn't tell us which site that they're at. They could be transportation, it could be middle, elementary, we don't know. The employee's ID number, that helps eliminate if there's an issue with the employee's name, or you've given a nickname or something we don't know them by. Contracted hours per day, it says 7 to 3. We could assume that they work that schedule Monday through Friday, but when you add in the schedule, the contracted hours per day, it makes it totally clear, no questions. For the announcer, it says announcer, LPMS. We don't know what they were announcing for. Some of the event workers, what they're doing, it doesn't matter what sport they're working. Some of them, it does matter which sport. Football pays differently, for example. So we need to know what they were doing, where they were doing it at, and what the event was. Boys high school basketball, girls basketball, boys soccer, whatever it is. Whether or not the work's in their regular position, definitely need the GL. And I think the rest of it's filled out correctly. So like I said, we would send that back. This one we would send back for sure. We don't have the employee's last name. We don't have the employee ID. We really don't know. We would go off the admin signature to figure out which school this employee was probably at, and we would send it back for more information. Okay, Heather asked if you need to fill in curriculum rate, if the teacher is doing something other than their regular role. As long as you put in there that they're subbing, we're gonna know that that is regular rate. Anything else is gonna be paid at curriculum rate unless you specifically tell us otherwise. So you don't need to write curriculum rate, but you will need to write regular rate if it's something that, you know, they've gotten authorization for to do at regular rate, and we're gonna need the admin to sign off on that. Okay. How do we find all the GL codes? Somebody else is going to address that shortly. That is not me. Yes.
On the timesheets, and we had managers in an email.
Yep.
Is there a possibility?
Lindsay's asking if, why there's no Saturday, Sunday on the timesheet, but it is on the leave sheet, and if we're gonna work on adding those at some point. I'm gonna defer to Jessica on that one. I don't know.
We are. So we will update the PDF that's on file with the print shop. So forms and papers that you need to order because your site's received maybe about 3 months worth. It just depends on how many employees you have that have extra time or take leave. And so the new ones that come out from the print shop, there'll be a version 2. And it's a great question because we may have discoveries along the way, things that are really hard for maybe the organization or clarity of pay. And so we will make version changes to these documents as we need to and send out the announcement of, you know, what's changed so that we can make sure that our sites have updated forms and accuracy. Lots of events fall on the weekend. So if you have somebody on these forms, you can cross it out, or you could add the right date, you can black out that column, whatever is going to be easiest for you and the employee, and then we will make them a 7-day experience for the future ones. Thank you. So through the walkthrough, we kind of covered this scenario of where when you have somebody who works additional hours on site and they do event work, like they can put everything onto the one piece of paper. There will be times where, you know, staff attend a different training and they have a timesheet filled out, particularly from that event, and they can turn that out separately, and so that's okay. These are some of the actions that we're asking for from office managers for the paper timesheets. We're going to move into leave records and some of the updated forms. And so this will be a presentation share between Jenny and then HR partners.
Hi, this is the leave sheet for everybody. This is a timesheet. Well, we'll talk about the leave sheets. Please make sure to fill out the name, location, ID. The schedule is not on the leave sheet, but if they're working a different schedule than their P8 hours, please write that on here so we can use the correct, make sure we're using the correct leave. Just fill out the date, the type of leave. There's columns for most of them. And then have the employee sign and the admin sign. The leave usage is different increments for classified and certified. Those are in the contracts, and I believe those are on the portal. So you can reference that, or you can ask us and we'd be happy to help you. And this leave sheet is filled out correctly with all of the fields. This one is incomplete. It just has X's instead of the amount of hours that the employee took leave. There's not a total at the bottom. We don't know who the employee is or their location.
Hi, everyone. This is Andrea from the HR office, and we have revised our personal leave application. So wanted to walk through what you'll see. This is now posted in the portal and available to you all. I think these are all hyperlinked as well in the presentation. So this personal leave application is good for certified and classified employees to use to request personal leave use. A site administrator must approve all personal leave applications. And you'll see at the bottom, there's 2 sections for approval. Only certified employee requests, need to have your site administrator and human resources approval. That's part of their collective bargaining agreement. And then classified employees only need site administrator approval. Once these are approved, it also means that this information needs to go onto a leave record at the end of that pay period. So this is an internal form for you to plan ahead in your buildings, help your administrators know who will be in and out of the building. Hopefully this form is useful, and by having just one form for personal leave, we were trying to minimize the amount of options available. If you see something on here though that reads funny or doesn't quite work, feel free to let me know. I'm the creator, I'll take ownership and we can get it worked out for you so it's a more useful tool. So personal leave, and then we've also created another new form. We all love forms. This is a short-term unpaid leave of application. So concept behind this one, if an employee needs to take days beyond their personal leave that are not attached to any sort of sick time or extended protected leave, just an unpaid day, we ask that they do this form for those purposes. Maximum of 5 unpaid days per contract year is what we track in our offices. Exceptions can always be made, but I just kind of want you guys to kind of have that in the back of your head that we do keep an eye on these and the number of unpaid days that folks are taking. So this could go for certified, classified, confidential, or administration. It's a form for everyone. Site administrator and HR director must approve all requests for unpaid leave, and then that leave also must be recorded on the employee's timesheet. So again, this is for anything outside of a protected leave that would be an unpaid day. Also available on the portal, also open to suggestions. So. Let's see. Do you want to talk this one through?
This is an example of when we did the, well, on slide 13, what you saw was a timesheet. We'll replace that with a leave record. So if you have a teacher that takes just 2 days of sick leave, this is what would be like some of the practice expectations of just managing those forms and organizing for your site and then routing them to administrator for approval. There was a question in the chat regarding monthly pay period timelines not having a dedicated slot on the leave forms. And for now, that's okay. Don't feel like you have to manually write those on for every single one. What we do imagine may be happening with this, especially first month transition, is, you know, if you have an employee who forgot to put in their leave, say last month, then maybe they would typically in the system do a time leave change request. You can include that on now their paper form and sheet. And so it's okay that the dates aren't there. Please don't feel like you have to write those in. And then we, at the end, will share some resources of how we're trying to make this easier for employees to know what the pay periods are with a calendar on the portal.
The question was, can personal leave applications be sent to HR electronically for approval? Heck yeah, you can send them to me. I'm the one that'll be approving them, so Andrea Wilson. You can also send those short-term unpaid leave forms to me as well. Please make sure your site supervisor has signed off on them and they're completed, but that would be wonderful. We'll go with that too. So it was a long question about classified personal leave not needing HR approval and potentially adding some custom fields like comp time, flex time, and things like that that are being offered in buildings. Whoever sent that in, let's talk more, because I'd love to unify our forms that we're using across the district. I totally respect that there's different needs in the building. So I don't know who that was. Mary Hofer, thanks. Let's talk, because we can totally update that form, but let's try our best to use unified forms across the district. It'll just add continuity, so when people hop around from building to building or site to site, they have a real clear understanding of what's expected of them. So thanks for the suggestion. Is that the last question? Okay, super. So I get to talk about protected leave of absences. Monica and Brittany are our two benefit specialists, and they're in the room, but they put me on the mic today. So there are two types of protected leave that we'll be asking folks to help manage on leave records. FEMLA, OFLA, and paid leave Oregon. That's kind of one lump sum. Those are either going to be continuous or intermittent leaves. Oftentimes it's for the employee's own serious health condition or to care for a family member with a serious health condition. And then we have workers' compensation leave. So these are kind of our two big areas that Monica and Brittany manage, and we'll need your help and support with those leave records. So we'll toggle through what a continuous protected leave record should look like. Along with all the features at the top of the form that our payroll team talked through about name, employee ID, department, all those wonderful things, we would like you on a continuous leave record, when you know somebody's gonna be out for the full pay period, please don't feel like you need to write in every day and every hour that those persons are gone. We can just use this FEMLA and an arrow down for that pay period. Notes and comments section of the FEMLA form will be really important so we know why that person's gone. So please remember to include a note. Employee signature is not required on these because oftentimes they're not in the building. So if that is true, you just put in unavailable, but we would still like your administrator or supervisor to sign off on these. For those of you that were with us prior to UKG, all of the HR-related leave records came back in a purple folder, and we're kicking those off again. So we'd like you to alpha order and put these in that purple folder. And please know that HR will make all the time adjustments to this type of leave record, so you don't have to put in, we do a lot of calculating and prorating for paid leave Oregon now, so there's some fun adjustments we make. So we'll take care of doing that. But if you can get us this record for those folks who are on a continuous leave in your building, that would be awesome. Next is an intermittent protected leave. So this one's a little bit more, it requires a little bit more attention. So these are when folks are off, on an intermittent schedule. They might be in the building, they might not be in the building. The days that they are out due to their intermittent protected leave, please indicate those hours in the other column and include a note in that notes and comments section. I just want to point out on this sample, you can also include, let's say somebody took personal leave or some non-contract time. on that same, in that same pay period, and go ahead and include it on this same time, or leave record, excuse me. We don't need two separate ones. And then we can make the adjustments here between HR and payroll to make sure it's all accounted for correctly. Employee signature is required on an intermittent leave record along with supervisor. And again, that purple folder is where we're hoping these come back to us in. And then that last protected leave record type is for workers' compensation. So again, indicating days and hours missed due to that work comp injury. Using a WC in the notes and comments section will help us know that, you know, you're all smart, workers' comp. And then if there's, again, any other leave taken in that same pay period, feel free to include it on this leave record as well. Employee signature is required, admin signature, and also please send that to us in that purple folder. I think, yeah, that's the end of protected leaves. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrea. Okay, so for some, these may feel like really big changes, and we are here across departments to help support and manage these changes. And I just want to talk through who can you contact, what are your resources, and also thank you to everyone who filled out the kind of connection survey so that we could understand kind of how you're feeling about this. And so where to go to get information, both right now and in the future, or where to send your employees to. The staff portal is going to be probably the first stop that we recommend. We have a dedicated payroll page, we have a dedicated HR page, and on there we commit to updating some of those FAQs and like building additional resources. We are trying to manage these almost on a weekly basis, so there's not so much changing that you need to come back to these places every single day. It's more, week by week, and we will send emails out to grab your attention if there's something like big process or document that has changed. But this is going to be a really great place to direct your employees to. We've got both FAQs that were sent to them in email and staff all-coms, and we've adjusted both on those. And we have a payroll calendar, which you can refer your employees to so that they can see those time periods. We recognize one of the limitations when we've moved away from UKG is when an employee submits their timesheet, they would see basically those time periods right up at the top, one of the first things they would see when they opened it up. And so we do have this color-coded on the staff portal for them to see. When you have questions regarding pay, please outreach to the payroll specialist at payroll, email Alias. And if you have any questions regarding HR benefits, the benefits team Alias is there as well. So please use these two teams when you're just not quite sure what the answer is, and we're available and here for you. We are offering and want to come to your site. So where you have questions, whether it's regarding our process with this particular change, please work with me. And there's a Google form linked on the slide deck for you to sign up for. We can just find the right time to come to you. And if you're fielding a lot of employee questions, employees just aren't sure what the changes are, let us know if you have an event that is for all of your staff or for you and your administrator. We're happy to do a one-to-one support session or come to something that you have at your site. We have office hours sign up, and these calendar invites will follow who signs up for it. These are about every 2 weeks. And they will cover and list anytime that, if we're seeing a lot of trending topics, everyone's kind of asking the same thing, we will kind of do a micro training and schedule those and let you know when those are. And also that's the space for you to come and ask your questions. From the questions we get from that, we want to make this, very easy. We'll share out what those questions and answers are continuously with this group, with administrators, or as needed with employees. And then you guys created a spreadsheet and that was fantastic. And so we really love seeing some of your real-time questions that you have. And so we're popping in there to try to answer some of those. Again, I'd probably on a weekly basis. And when we asked, where do you go to get your information, we understand that you value kind of going to each other. And so we appreciate how much information you're sharing across each other, both in that spreadsheet. That's where Lindsay was referring to earlier, some of the data merge and mail merge that she's put together and used in the past. And Deb Mullen, thank you for sending out that email and what this is. I'm sorry, Deb, with the technical issues that we're having, we're not going to be able to hear you, but thank you, one, for putting this together, and two, I know you sent information to all office managers yesterday. It's appreciated. I'll make sure that we link this. It's linked here, but we'll also link it to the staff portal as well. And then we have April Jorgensen, who's down the hall, and I think my job was to message her when we were ready for her to come in with these limitations. So she will hopefully pop over in just a minute. And then just some best practices. Making copies. Please make sure, and we have this written on the timesheet, but please make sure employees take a copy for themselves. You're keeping a site copy. Just a suggestion to make sure that, employees are maintaining their own records of everything that they're signing and submitting. Hi, April. We're going to get you a mic. Oh, perfect. And then there you go. Thanks.
Hi there. So I was asked to come and speak today about the general questions that we get about account codes, specifically how they pertain to TLC or some of our trainings that happened. And I want to let you guys know that we are going to request that you forward timesheets to us that need to be coded for a training. Excuse me. We're trying really hard to make sure that when our coaches do a training, that they collect timesheets from the staff members who attended them and bring them back to me for coding ahead of time. But we know that that isn't always going to be the case, and sometimes you're going to have a teacher turn in a timesheet that doesn't have a code on it. If it's something that is for student services, for TLC, you're going to need to send your paper timesheets down to us. We will get them coded. I know that we had a question from one of the office managers regarding if she had, there's a timesheet for a staff member who was multiple departments, say it was student services and TLC. Go ahead and send it down to us. We all work on the same floor down here, and we are really good about taking those timesheets and passing them around to each other so that we can get everybody coded and to payroll on time.
Thank you, April. And one of the things, the experience with the system has been, there's drop down with certain names and criteria, which have helped make it clear to what those names are. What we will do is when we extract information out of the system, we can provide a list of what those names were. They won't have the account codes listed because there are multiple account owners across the district. But if you're looking to try to make sure employees are putting standardized information so that district interpretation can happen for those sheets of what was that, and that we're using uniform language, we can do an export of all of the names, and we'll send that out. And so essentially to help answer where do I go to get account codes? If you have remaining questions of what's my site account code, or what's this that, it's information and your site is the owner, please work with your staff accountant to get that information. If you're not sure who your staff accountant is, you can reach out to myself or to Nick, but we do have that on the portal, and they're here to help guide and predict. But when your site's not the owner of the funding, then employees should be able to get that information from what work they were doing. So if they attended the training, then we are working across the district to try to make this a good experience. And we may have learnings coming out of the first month, but if we can, get employees to also help responsible to manage their time and work with where the training was, so that you've got the information to be successful as you're organizing, alphabetizing, and getting admin sign off. One of the other things that we will be doing is extracting out, one of the questions that's been asked before is, employees have entered future dated time off into UKG, and will you still be able to see that, or how should you do it? And I think some of you have been extracting that out a little bit, but we will be able to pull a list of all of that time and send it to your site directly. And we're going to work on doing that now as we're changing over the dashboards, as we're reducing the experience for all staff except for transportation and nutrition services. Employees who don't punch in and out, as we're doing that, we will be sending your site anything that's in the system that might be helpful as you navigate this change. We have some time for questions, and of course, you know, we're here to answer. And sorry, we won't be able to hear you, but I might be able to give our question moderator a microphone so that she can keep us honest on what the question is, and then we'll try to respond in the room. We have maybe 5 to 10 minutes for questions.
First question here from Mary. A suggestion for maybe a standardized yellow folder for timesheets that need to go to April J, April D for coding.
Thank you. I think the request in question was maybe giving a color dedicated to ones that need to route to the district other than HR and payroll. So HR will be using purple. For payroll, we've brought back red and blue. We're putting the labels on them now, and you will be receiving those at your site. Other department asked for colors. I mean, there's a rainbow, and
Great suggestion. It sounds like we can make that happen.
thank you.
Next question from Jennifer over at Realms. With her monitoring 2 schools, can she send all staff timesheets in one stack, or do they need to be separated by school? All together. Thank you. From Carolina, how do we know what the current leave balances are and whether a staff no longer has sick time, as an example, and need to use unpaid leave instead?
I'll take the first part of the question, and then I'll look to my team, and because I just want to acknowledge like the change of this experience in UKG. Employees were able to experience projected time off and get a sense of like, you know, good adequate planning for what their leave balances would be through the year. And this change, like it does remove that. So employee leave balances, they'll be able to see actuals as of the date of payroll processing, and those live on their pay stubs. And so it is, you know, employees having to think and consider from the point in time that it's published. And that experience, I just want to acknowledge, is pretty different than seeing real-time balances, with the caveat that, you know, some of the information that employees have been seeing in UKG has been inaccurate, and so I want to acknowledge that experience as well. And so balances that are found on their pay stubs are their source of truth, and that's what employees will use to help manage and plan their time. Payroll specialists, do we have anything to add?
I can't decide. I think there's a report that the sites can run. I can't remember what it's called, but I'll write it down and we'll add that to the Google Doc with the questions, or we'll email it out.
Thank you.
One more question at the moment from Amy. Why can't they email the account code to the teacher for that workshop so they can place it on their time card and in Red Rover as well?
So we do not send out account codes for a variety of reasons. The biggest reason that we have is that a lot of times funding sources will change from the time that the training happens until it's time to process payroll. And so we don't provide account codes because we could be switching it at the last moment. It's a lot easier for us to switch it at the time of payroll processing than it is to have it pre-printed onto a timesheet. And Red Rover, same thing. We don't put account codes in Red Rover because it is, when the training happens, we may be planning to pay for it out of one funding source, but by the time we get the bill from the ESD, we could have moved it. And so it's a lot easier for us to work with the accountants. And when the billing comes from the ESD, to have real-time, true account codes for that kind of information.
Okay, one question from earlier from Meredith. What do we do if an EA works extra time at our school and also has ticket sales jobs? Do we use the same timesheet, and does the timesheet need to be approved by the athletic director, et cetera?
In this instance, you can use a separate timesheet. You should use a separate timesheet. They should be filling out one at the one site where they're doing their extra duty work and then one at your site. And yes, their extra time for ticket taking or whatever will need signed by the athletic director. Sorry, it's actually the admin, not the athletic director.
Yeah, these are great questions. Thanks so much for asking. And we appreciate your time. So with that, we will call it a wrap, and please continue to outreach with any questions that you have. We will have this slide deck and recording up on the staff portal as soon as we can, so that you can leverage some of the things that were hyperlinked and be able to, if you weren't able to attend this live, you're watching it back and just be able to have everything in one place. So we appreciate you. Change is hard. We're going to get through it, and we hope you have a great break. Thank you.